Welcome to the Abundance Hack Podcast, where we want to inspire you to push past your blocks, limiting beliefs, and comfort zone to live a confident, happy, and fulfilling life. I am your host, Niajae, influencer, motivational speaker, and boss babe. Every time you hit subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance. Hey M&Ms, thank you for listening or watching the Abundance Hack Podcast. I am joined by the amazing Rachel Pitts. She used to be called Rachel Tipton, but she just got married and had these beautiful wedding photos in Paris. Oh my God. And then also Gina Trimarco. They are two of my favorite people right now. They are full of personality. They make me laugh all the time. So I'm super excited to have them on the show. So I am going to let them introduce themselves and tell you how fabulous they are.
Awesome. Rachel, you go first.
Okay, I will. Thanks, Gina. I am one of the two women your mother warned you about. Gina and I work together on that podcast. Well, before anything else, I'm mom to Roxy, age 10, who is fabulous. And that is the most important thing in my life. And now I'm Mrs. Pitts to Felix, and I'm a realtor. And I'm also the closing curve. I've been working on it for about a year and we're still in process, and I'm just super excited to launch it, but I always mention it because it's coming.
Awesome. And I am Gina Trimarco, owner and founder of Pivot 10 Results, which is a training company for sales and leadership. And I also own Carolina Improv Company, which is an improv comedy theater in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And I'm the other woman your mother warned you about.
So their super awesome podcast is the Women Your Mother Warned You About, and I was just on their show, so you definitely have to check that episode out. I will post the link in the show notes. And before we get started into like a deeper dive into your story, I want to ask both of you, what does abundance mean to you?
Ooh, deep question.
Go ahead first, Gina.
Abundance to me is having what your heart desires and having what you want, and everyone's abundance is differently. So I think at the end of the day, if I were to bottom line it, it's having your heart's desire.
I love it.
To me, abundance is more of an approach to my life and a feeling that I constantly need to remind myself about, because a lot of times in the past I've gotten into the I'm broke life, like I'm broke mindset, or the I don't have enough love, I don't have enough this, I don't have enough that mindset that we sometimes tend to fall into. Mm-hmm. And abundance is it's an approach of being grateful for everything that I do have, and also knowing how much I deserve from the universe. And that's not in terms of entitlement, but in terms of that I deserve goodness. I deserve the best that there is. I deserve for all my wildest dreams to come true. And I believe that everybody who can take on that approach to life, it's just amazing what comes to you from the universe.
Okay, so my revised answer is right.
Oh my goodness, I love it. No, honestly, I love that you said deserve, because no other guest has said that so far, because I believe that life is meant to be abundant. The universe wants to give us everything that we want, but people don't feel like they deserve it. That's our own blocks, our own limiting beliefs, our own negative self-talk, the stories we're telling ourselves that we don't deserve the best love there can be. We don't deserve to have thriving businesses. We don't deserve to have it all, because you can't have it all. Like that's such a limiting belief that people have. So I love that you said deserve.
Yeah, and I think that is, well, I can't really speak for anybody else except for myself. And I know that a lot of the things that I've gone through, and you can read about it in my book called The Gift of Wreckage. You can find that on Amazon. But I've struggled for many, many years with not feeling like I deserved love. Not feeling like I deserved to get the job, not feeling like I deserved to be noticed and seen and heard. And I still struggle with that. I mean, let's be honest. It's sometimes we get in that funk, but I know that I'm getting to that point where I'm like, man, I have spent 43 years you know, sometimes feeling like I don't deserve the best, and I deserve the best, and you do too.
Yes, yes. Can we actually dive a little deeper into that? So if there is someone, because I feel like there's so many amazing, talented people, and because social media is like this highlight reel of everyone's lives, we're constantly comparing our lives, our businesses, our relationships to other people's, and we feel like, well, why don't I have this? So like, how did you overcome not feeling like you deserve something? Like, what are some tips you would give someone that's experiencing that?
I think if you know, I'll jump in because I'm really doing a lot of work on this right now, and I think it really comes down to doing a lot of work on yourself and really being mindful and self-aware and checking in with yourself, because it's so easy to beat yourself up. But if you would just sit down and take a breath and really analyze and look at how great your life is and have that self-talk, I think that's like the first step, because that's something that I'm constantly working on, is getting out of that belief system, because I think we have a lot of baggage that we bring with us, right? We have a lot of trauma from our earlier life that tells us that we're not worthy and we don't deserve. So the only person that's really going to tell you that you deserve is you.
I love it.
Totally. And another angle on that too is, so pulling from Game of Thrones last night, which I know, Niajae, you have not seen, but it's awesome. So there was a quote that one of the characters, and this is not a spoiler, but there's just a quote that she mentions, and she says, it's Sansa, and she says, the bravest thing we can do right now is to face the truth. The most courageous thing we can do is to really face the truth. And so, whereas, as Gina said, we beat ourselves up a lot of times, sometimes if you can really, not to beat yourself up about things, but to really look at the truth. Like, I mean, any abundance worth having, most of the time comes with a lot of hard work, whether it's internal work on yourself, as Gina mentioned, which is the hardest kind of work. So you really dig deep inside yourself, stop blaming everybody else around you for what's going on, and really look at yourself and say, this is the truth of what my life is right now. But also in terms of business, like, what is the truth? Like, am I not getting enough real estate business because I'm not actually making enough phone calls? Is that really the truth? Am I blaming the market and that the buyers are not, they're not doing what they need to do? Or is it really because I'm not making enough phone calls? Like, having the courage to face the truth in the situation. I mean, it's a hard thing to do because it's so much easier to point that finger everywhere else,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. All right. So tell me how the podcast came about. So I love that you host it together. Your energy together is so phenomenal. And I know that it's hard working with another person sometimes, and even just like two females sometimes, but you guys' energy is like so phenomenal. So how did it come about? How did you two meet, first of all?
Oh, Rach, you want to tell the how we met story?
Okay, so how we met was, I was stalking Gina on Facebook.
True story.
True story. And well, really, honestly, it was because she, as she still does, shares a lot about what's going on. And I saw some sort of presentation she was giving on, I can't remember what it was, but I reached out to her and was like curious. And so we started having a conversation, and I was in a time of my life in my career path where I wanted some change. And so I reached out to her, and we began the dance back and forth of, how I didn't have the money for business coaching. And then, I found the money, and she became my business coach. And Gina and I, you were my coach for what, 2 years? Was it 2 years? 2 years. And that was when I was really focusing on my fitness business. And I actually, when I came to Gina, I was like, I hate real estate. Blech, I want out. And so I started my fitness business. And then funny enough, I circled back around to it because really the bottom line is all business and sales is about relationships. And I've figured that out. But we had that relationship, and then we became friends. And then we just started having breakfast together because we just wanted to get back together and catch up. And Gina was doing her other podcast, the Pivotal Leader. Thank you. And so she already knew how to do the podcast thing. And we just kind of were like, well, first it started out, we wanted to have our own TV show, which is probably going to happen again and eventually one day. But then we were like, well, let's do a podcast, because our breakfast conversations were just so, there was so much going on that we thought it would be worth sharing. And honestly, I think that working together has deepened our personal relationship, because we've just gotten more and more vulnerable. And like over the weekend, we were digging deep into Brene Brown's vulnerability thing. And,
oh my God.
And I think that, and especially women, because correct me if I'm wrong, but sometimes it's hard to get close to women because you're just not 100% sure if you can trust them with your shit. Like, you know, and Gina and I have gotten to the point where like recently we're like, okay, I have not shared this with anybody ever on the planet. I think I'm ready to tell you now. And it's, you know, that kind of stuff is scary, and it takes a while of going through some stuff with another woman. And, you know, honestly, like Gina knows 4:30 is my witching hour. So sometimes it's best to avoid
in the afternoon. Do not, you just stay away from Rachel.
Or like, give me a cookie and then we can talk at 4:30.
We've actually been to the gym together 4:30 in the afternoon, and I looked at the clock and I'm like, oh shit. Give her
on the treadmill.
But talking about our relationship and our partnership, and Rachel really hit on the head that, you know, we've been pretty good friends, but being in a partnership, and we're in a legal partnership, and it was almost like getting married, because we had to because we have a third partner as well, who's Keith, who's a big part of why this podcast exists. He helped us get it off the ground financially, and then he contributes to us, but we had to create this partnership and agreement. And I think it's been a really cool experience, because we have to check in with each other, and we're so used to running solo. So I think it's been a really good experience of like, oh, I have a partner, I should run this by her. And that was a learning lesson in itself. As far as like working together, you know, I've had my podcast on my own, The Pivotal Leader, but with my improv background, a couple things happens. I'm trained to collaborate, and better things come from collaboration. We're better together. So when you have that collaborative kind of relationship, and we're a little bit yin and yang, yet we're alike, but we're not alike, that creates for really good, I think, content, entertainment. And it's just more fun to do that. As women, I think our personalities are so similar that we're all about helping each other. And so I think that's why we work so well together, that we respect that. The other thing that we've encountered is two women producing a podcast called Women Your Mother Warned You About, the podcast that makes sales sexy again, actually scares off some women, which is a little sad. And that's a whole nother topic in itself.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is that we also don't seem to crash and burn at the same time. So crash and burn meaning, you know, when you have like a day where you're just weeping uncontrollably for no reason, or like everything's falling apart and you want to quit at all, or, you know, it just happens. Like, you know, I think it's important for all women to know that happens to everyone. No matter what you see on someone's Facebook feed, there's always that falling apart moment for women. It's part of our emotional makeup. And Gina and I are able to support one another when the other one is having a breakdown. Yeah. And so sometimes there's been times where Gina is having a hard time, and I might actually have been having a hard day too, but I'm able to get out of myself to help her get back on her feet. And women, it's so important for women to do that for each other. I just had a conversation this morning with a friend of mine, and I said to her, she's like, oh, I just don't want to bother you, you're so busy. And I said, I'm never too busy for you. I don't care what time it is. Call me. If you're in your head and you're feeling like no one's there, I'm here. I will answer the phone. And that is such a hard thing for women to do, because we're trying to be so strong and we don't want to bother anybody. And I'm like, dude, you can't fix yourself inside your head at 3 a.m.
Now, you know what? Rachel really hits it on the head, because Rachel, you actually said that to me when I was having like some rough times, that you're like, hey, you can call me. And I think as women, we forget that there are people in our tribe that we can call. And then it's important to like continue to build the tribe with like-minded women, because there are other women who won't be there for you that I've reached out to, because I think that when we're having a hard time, they think it's contagious.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
That was a serious mic drop.
That was, yes. Wow. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. So, oh my God, so much gold in that. Okay, there's so many things that I want to say. Before I get to that huge bomb you just dropped, I want to say that like it's really important that we are vulnerable with the people in our lives and holding space for people to come to you, because like, and when I say holding space, I mean practice active listening, because a lot of times like we listen to respond rather than just listening, but also listening without judgment. And I think that that's why people feel like they can't go to people, because what is she going to think about me? Is she going to judge me? Is she going to think, you know, I'm weak, or I'm like whatever a person may feel. So that fear of judgment, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable, because that is how you cultivate deeper connections, by showing your not so pretty times, you know? And I think we need more of that, especially, and I always bring it back to social media, but we have these highlight reels. And so everyone is afraid now to show when they're not having a fabulous day, and just being vulnerable, because no one has perfect days every day. You know, we all have struggles. Everyone has struggles. So really just holding space for people in your life to come to you and express their struggles, and they know this person is not going to judge me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And the fact of the matter is, like, people tend to tell me, and Gina as well, oh, you're so strong. You're such a strong woman. Yes, true. And sometimes I'm weak. Sometimes I am terrified. I feel like I burst into tears the other day because my broker at Beach Realty Group, who I work for, she gave us a shout out on her blog just about our podcast. And I shared that, and I was like, thank you so much for, you know, shouting out to our podcast. And then she sent me a message, or she made a comment on my post and said, I'm so in awe of all your accomplishments and this and that. And I burst into tears because I was feeling like a failure that day. Mm-hmm. Like I was feeling like I was sucking and I was not doing things right, and I was on the wrong path at that moment. And I just, you know, your perception of your own, the story we're telling ourselves, to take from Brene Brown's speech, the story I was telling myself that day was that I sucked. And meanwhile, there's people out there thinking opposite. So that's another reason why it's important to reach out to people. Like my conversation with my friend this morning, I said, because she's like, I just don't know if I'll ever feel that feeling of success again, because she's just in a valley. And I said, oh, girl, first of all, you have more talent in your little pinky toenail than I do, and you're half my age, and you've got it going on. You're just in a growth period. Like you're gonna get there again. You just have to believe it and start visualizing it. Like, and she needed to hear that. She is in the valley, and she needed to hear that it's not up forever, and she's not a failure, and she's not terrible. You know, it's just a moment, and it's a hard moment of growth. Mm-hmm. Those moments, like I said to Gina once recently about being in the cocoon, like that whole image of the butterfly being in the cocoon. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's a beautiful image, because that can't be real fun, you know, inside that cocoon for that butterfly, but it's totally worth it.
And you know what I said to you? My cocoon is really tight, and I would like to get out. Let me out.
And you don't get to get out you don't get to get out of the cocoon when you want. Mm-hmm. You get out of the cocoon when you're ready. Yes. And that's the part that sucks even worse, because you're like, I want to be ready now.
Yeah. And someone was telling a story on a different episode where they said they tried to like open up a cocoon to help the butterfly like come out faster, but it killed the butterfly. So like, sure. So think about that. If you force yourself before you go through that process, you know, it's almost damaging. So trusting divine timing and allowing things to develop as they're meant to. But let's get back to that bomb that Gina dropped. Like
Yes.
yes, let's dive into that. Gina, oh, excuse me, Gina. Look, I'm tongue tied today.
The contagion bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is something that I've noticed over time. And I think this is what's kind of given me a thicker skin is there have been times when I've been having a rough time and I reach out and people are kind of like standoffish and like, oh, you know, it'll be fine. Yeah, I'll give you a call back. Literally, people have been like, you know what, let me think about that and call you back, and never call you back and sort of run from it. And I've had a couple older, wiser women say, you know, people are contagious. They're afraid you're contagious and they're going to get what you have, whether you're going through whatever hard time you're going through. Nobody wants to deal with it because they're afraid. And I think it's really their own shit that's going on in their lives. And being around someone else going through shit scares them because it's a reminder of what they're going through. So I think that's a big piece of it. I had someone once tell me, actually, she was a vendor of mine who decided to cut me, say, you know what, I'm not working with you anymore because you're too negative on social media. I'm like, have you met me? I mean,
you are hilarious. That's so crazy.
Right. I mean, but I'm also I'm really real. And so sometimes you see good.
Uh-oh, it broke up a little bit.
Can you hear us now?
Yes.
Okay. You're gonna see me positive most of the time, but once in a while, people are gonna be like, "What did that mean that she just said?" And some people will even be like, Gina, I'd be careful with what I'm like." But I'm gonna be real and raw, because if that opens up other people to be the same way or feel like they can come to me, I'm gonna be 100% who I am. But this person was like, I'm blocking you. I don't want to have anything to do with you on social media. Swear to God, this is when I had just gotten out of the hospital with anemia and like my life was tanking. My business was tanking. But I think because she was going through a cancer scare, she didn't want to hear about what I was dealing with from a medical perspective. And so I've had to like have compassion around that I can't let that upset me, because people are where they are and you can't let that upset you. Just realize that they feel like you might be contagious, so they stay away from you, and that's their thing, and that's okay. So you want to have a tribe that's like, I'm not worried. I've taken all my shots. Give me what you have. I'm not going to keep what you have.
So I have a little feedback on that I think, like, as people are going through a spiritual journey, especially if you're focusing on like the law of attraction and focusing like on the positive, and you want to have like positivity around you, I can see that, because I went through that phase of like, okay, I can't let any negativity like penetrate my happy bubble. But I think that pretending that life is all peaches and cream and all sunshine and butterflies is a form of spiritual bypassing, because things do happen in life. You have bad days, you have challenges. So being bulletproof, this is what I call it, being bulletproof, to where you can be around someone that's having a hard time, but it doesn't lower your vibration. It doesn't affect your energy. And so building up that resistance and that resilience to whatever happens, it's not lowering your vibration. And I feel like that's the true, like, you know, test of like, are you a positive person? If you can be in a negative situation but still keep your vibrations high. And again, I think we have to hold space for people. So just because your friend is having a bad time doesn't mean like now you're gonna have a bad time. Like, people are not like, energy is contagious, but only if you allow it. Like you should vibrate so high when your friend comes to you, you're lifting them up.
And that's exactly what I was gonna say, is that, again, going back to, aren't we better together? Don't we have some kind of responsibility to lifting other people up, because we have the energy to do it, and we have the energy to block ourselves from the negative energy. Unless we're in a really bad place, then we don't.
Well, and I think it's important to note that there's a difference between negativity and vulnerability. And so I definitely agree with the idea that you should surround yourself with positive, uplifting people for the most part, like your five, you know. and not hang around people that are overall negative, because they just, not because they're bad, they just have some work to do. But I think that there's a difference between that and someone who is reaching out for help. Like Gina said, reaching out to somebody who in turn avoided her because they were worried about it being contagious. I mean, and I'm not going to get religious on you, but I'm going to use Jesus as an example, and you can fill in whatever higher power that you like. But like, Jesus wasn't afraid that the leper or the tax collector or the prostitute was going to make him less of a spiritual being. Like, he just was willing to help and have empathy. And like, to your point, Niajae, that you can build yourself bulletproof and be around someone and let them vent, hold that space and let them get out what they need to. But it's like, you don't have to catch the hot potato that they're throwing at you. But sometimes people just need to vent. And it's actually a gift when someone is vulnerable enough to say, hey, this is what's going on. The thing to be careful with is when it's negativity, it's all about someone else who's to blame. When it's vulnerability, it's about, this is how I'm feeling and this is what happened.
Is imposter syndrome holding you back from taking your business or life to the next level? Is your upper limit preventing you from achieving the success you truly desire and deserve? Because you do deserve an abundant life. Go to niajae.com/transcend to register for my exclusive masterclass, Transcend Your Upper Limits. Learn how to navigate through the hurdles on the way to the success, the happiness, and the fulfillment you desire. That's niajae.com/transcend, NIAJAE.com. It's time to transcend your upper limit.
Yeah. And getting back to what Niajae said about listening to respond and without judgment, coming from a place of acceptance, right? That's really, I think, the key to everything. And it's the foundation of what we teach, and is about acceptance versus yes, but.
Can you say that one more time? It's the foundation. It broke up just a little bit.
Sure.
So it's the foundation.
So yes and is a foundation of improv that we teach people to be in the mindset of acceptance. So when you hear the phrase yes but, that's a no. When you hear the phrase yes and, it's about, I accept what you have to say or feel or think or believe. I'm going to validate that that's your belief, and I'm going to contribute something that hopefully will take it to another place positively together, and I'm going to help you with that maybe, or we're going to come up with a solution together. But everything that we do from an improv perspective is like, we can't perform on stage if we aren't actively listening, being 100% in the moment, and accepting that the ideas people put in front of us.
Yeah, I love that. I think improv is something that no matter who you are, what you do, what profession you're in, is something that you can benefit from. I have to admit, like, I've only done a couple of like improv, but I've noticed recently that there was like a attorney that started an improv like specifically for attorneys, because they're so like kind of in a box and like rigid, and it helped them kind of open up, and it improved their life, it improved their business. So do you have like a couple of benefits of improv?
Well, for one, the listening, right? The listening, the acceptance of ideas, so everything that we do is without judgment, because that is the first and foremost important thing. Our other rule is making other people look good. So if you think about, you're on a stage, someone has an idea, improv is completely unscripted. We have to like pull things from the audience or from our own ideas or from our partner. Our partner has an idea. We're going to support it even if we don't like it. And that's going to make them look good, which ultimately makes us look good, which ultimately attracts, if you get back in the law of attraction, that attracts people to us because they're like, wow, what a cool person that is. The other thing that improv does for us is it retrains our brain to really be present, to really be in the moment. You cannot actively listen if you're not really present in the moment. That right there creates instant trust. So think about it. We're having a conversation. I'm letting you talk. I never interrupt. And inside you're feeling like, boy, she's a good listener.
Mm-hmm.
And now you trust me. And that starts the beginning of rapport and building a relationship. And then you just start to attract more positive things in your life.
I love it. And I love your lipstick, by the way. You are just like fierce today. Yes.
The other thing about yes and that I can attest to the fact that yes and is probably the number one best business technique I've ever learned. And you can use it in everything. I use it with my daughter. I use it with my husband. You know, you can use it anywhere. And again, it's about validating that other person of going, yes, you want me to buy you that $300 toy. And let's create a strategy around that or whatever, you know, but it really is that it's interesting because I've experimented with it over the years. The reaction you get from somebody when you say, yes, 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 but da 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 da, then it's your opinion, almost like you're saying, yeah, what you just said is whatever, but what I have to say is more important. Instead of, yes, I'm hearing you, and I also have another idea. It's very powerful. Just try it, all you abundance hackers out there. Or what did you decide you're calling your followers?
M&M, so magical
M&Ms.
manifestors.
Nice. Makes me want some M&Ms.
I know, like you think of candy, and candy is always fun, right? But magical manifestors is what it stands for.
I like it.
Awesome. All the M&Ms out there, you guys try it. I hardly can even use the word but. You'll hear me when I talk, and I know I did it earlier in the podcast. I want to say but I have trained myself. I'll say yes. And it's a great skill to practice.
Yeah, very powerful, very powerful. All right, so I want to ask you both each 3 tips. So the M&Ms are getting a treat today because we have 2 guests. So what are your 3 top tips for living an abundant life?
3. Okay. My first one, self-care. That's my first one. What's my second and third? Oh, she got us. I'm improvising. Self-care.
Improv.
Yeah. Self-care, gratitude. And I'm stealing from Mama Gina's book. I mean, bragging. I mean, that's something that I've started to do. If you haven't read the book Pussy, a Reclamation by Regina Thomashower, that's what I do in the morning when I wake up. I journal these 3 things of 3 brags, 3 gratitudes, and 3 desires. And I think we don't brag enough on each other, on ourselves, meaning like what is just reminding ourselves how great we are. So that's what I would say: self-care, bragging, and gratitude.
I was wondering if you were going to say the title of the book. I was just waiting, like, is she going to say it?
Well, it's a really great book. And anybody out there, any of you M&Ms that are thinking, oh my God, I can't possibly read a book that's got a name called Pussy. It's a powerful book.
We both felt the same way
for women. Oh, same. I was like, ew, that word. But that's the whole point of the book is it's you guys, just even if you have to go and hide it from everybody around you, it's such a great read. It's worth it. Let's see, my 3 tips. Number 1, I would have to go with gratitude for sure, because the abundance that you draw to yourself starts with the abundance that you already have. And sometimes
say that again.
The abundance that you draw to you starts with the abundance that you already have. And if you're out there sitting there going, well, I don't have abundance, I'm broke, my job doesn't pay me enough. Well, go pull it back even more. Do you have a house to live in or an apartment? Did you have food to eat today? Do you have a smartphone? If you're watching this or listening to this right now, you have some sort of device that's allowing, so there's reasons to be gratitude. Do you have your health? Because I'm here to say, and Gina knows too, if you have your health taken away from you, there is no better way to get grateful. So be grateful for the people around you. The love of your family and your small circle of people around you is a great reason to be grateful. I'll get all choked up if I go on that. So I'm going to move on to tip number 2. And tip number 2 is to get out pen and paper. A lot of the stuff that bounces around inside of our heads is not doing us any good. A lot of times, if it's negative, it's not doing us any good. And even if it's a positive, big dream and goal, if it's bouncing around inside your head, it's not doing you any good. So take out pen and paper, like a pen and paper. Doing it on your phone's cool, but with a pen and paper physically is even better, to write down all the shit that's in your head. The good stuff, the bad stuff, just get it out. Set a timer for literally like 5 minutes. And if you start with that, if it seems like too much, you'll write for more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You will. But it's a powerful thing that when you study success, like I have for years, you'll see that all the big boys in success, they all have writing as part of their morning routine. And so that'll be my third is make sure you have a strong morning routine. So gratitude and writing are part of my morning routine, as well as doing something fitness wise, because having that powerful start to your day, setting yourself up for success, setting yourself up for the abundance that you would like to create in your life. If you do it and start doing it consistently in the mornings, you will start to see it. You'll be shocked over time at how much abundance shows up for you. Because think about the other way that a lot of people do. They sleep as late as they can. They hit snooze like 6 times. Then they roll out of bed and they're like, fuck this. And they get in the shower. They're like, stumbling around. Like, that is not the way to set yourself up for success. And I can tell you that from experience, because that's how I used to do. And now I don't anymore. I've put into place a powerful morning routine, and things have turned around like crazy.
You'd be so proud of me. I was up at 5:30.
Nice. I saw that. You had all kinds of stuff going on posted before.
I know. I accomplished the world this morning, but to your point, it's having that, like, creating that morning routine that really sets me up. And even when I woke up this morning, I woke up with like, let's first set the routine of what needs to happen this morning, which has to include writing, is now including working out. And even with the writing, I'm like, I have to write. I have 60 minutes available to do all these things. I'm like, all right, 20 minutes for writing, 20 minutes for, I had to prep for a podcast that's after this one. And then 20 minutes for, preparing for like the thing after the next thing, which is our quick tips that we're doing today. So I literally time blocked it and got it all done.
Awesome. Productivity at its finest.
Right. And some people will argue they're not morning people. And that is true for most people. I didn't used to be either. And that's why I mentioned that. I know from experience how the mornings can suck. But if you set yourself up with a routine that gets you somewhere, then you will be excited about the morning. It's not, most of the time when my alarm goes off, I feel the same way that I just described. I'm like, But now I've just trained myself to get up and get excited about the morning routine, because it just makes the whole day better.
It does. It really does. So one of the things that I love about you too, you're yourself, like you're so unapologetically just you. So is there anything that you can say, not just to the women, but just to people, just to be themselves? Like any tips on just letting your personality shine and not feeling like you have to hold back or blend in?
I can go.
Go ahead.
Okay. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was, what other people think about you is none of your business. And that's a really hard one to grasp. But if you keep that in the forefront of your mind, that it's none of your business what they think. It's really comes back down to self-love and what you think about yourself. Number one. Number two, another improv thing for us is that we actually seek out failure. We like to fail, because with failure comes innovation. With failure comes learning. But most importantly, with failure comes building of confidence, because you fail, you get back up, you do it again. Eventually you succeed. And that builds confidence. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, I got another. This is not a spoiler, but I had a very big day yesterday. There was a lot going on yesterday. I almost sunk a boat. That's a whole story. But then my daughter wanted to go see Endgame. So Endgame is like this crazy phenomenon right now in the world. And this is not a spoiler. This is just a quote that I can't get out of my head. And there was a character, and she said to this other character, she said, most people fail at who they're supposed to be. So go out there and succeed at who you really are. And I know from my experience that I have failed many times at who I thought I was supposed to be. And when you are not authentically out there operating at who you really are, and then people can see through it anyway. So it's not going to work trying to be who you think you're supposed to be, or who your parents told you you're supposed to be, or who society and your group of friends told you you're supposed to be. Like, that shit just doesn't work, because people are like, something's not right there in the water.
Not aligning.
Yeah. And so you have to really be yourself as much as possible. And learning to be yourself is also a hard process, because you have to strip away all of these supposed to be's. And I'm still doing that. I mean, there was a time when I got into real estate, and I was kind of like, oh, I need to cover up all my tattoos, so in case I don't like make people feel like I'm not professional because I have tattoos. And now I'm like, if you want to work with me, then if you're the right client for me, then my tattoos shouldn't bother you, because they are not hurting. They're not contagious.
I love it. Oh my goodness. I love it. This has been absolutely amazing. And so I didn't even tell the listeners. So Rachel and I actually go way back. We met when I owned a dance and aerial studio at the NECA aerial teacher training. So yeah, I love reconnecting, because I feel like everyone that comes into your life for a reason. And when that happened, I had no idea that we both would have podcasts today. And so and you two have definitely become like two of my favorite people to see online. Always empowering, always funny. Like, it's a pleasure speaking with you. So,
well, we feel the same way, that you're part of that same kind of girl gang of ours, that you just have the same mindset and philosophy. And then the even funnier thing was seeing how we were connected, you and I connected to Donnie Bovine.
yeah.
Right? That was another weird, like, where did that come from? So a small world.
Yeah. So Donnie was my coach that helped me launch my podcast. He's super awesome, super powerhouse, unfiltered. I love unfiltered people.
He's like, I like to call him, he's like the brother of another mother. He's like the male version of Gina. That's how I like to think of him.
Yeah, you two are awesome. All right, guys. So thank you again so much for coming. And until next time, love and light.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to the Abundance Hack Podcast. Don't forget to leave comments and questions. Remember, every time you subscribe or leave a 5-star rating, I do my happy dance.